Welcome back to Out of Bounds here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Robert Tatka, and with me at this time is the pre- and post-game show host for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Mr. Matt Sammon. Matt, welcome to Out of Bounds here on SportsTownChicago.com.
Oh, Robert, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Matt, this is your 13th year working in the radio booth with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and over the past 9 years, you've been with Dave Mitchkin and Phil Esposito. Tell us, what has it been like working with those two crazy characters?
Yeah. Some may see them as crazy, but they're actually very good, down-to-earth people. Dave, I've been friends with his really ever since he joined the team, which is about the same time I did. He is much more mild-mannered and calm than what the play-by-play calls sound like. Phil Esposito, of course, is a hockey legend, a Hockey Hall of Famer, the founder of the Tampa Bay Lightning, a guy who took a chance when nobody thought that he could make it happen, and somehow he did. And it's an honor to work with both of those guys. Good seasons, bad seasons. It's always good to know that they're there by your side to lean on.
Well, we all know Phil Esposito in Chicago. We'll always remember him as one of the worst trades that ever happened in the history of hockey. That's for sure. Now, Matt, the Lightning, they're entering the Stanley Cup Finals. They're on a roll. They knocked off the President Cup champion New York Rangers. What has been the keys to success for the Tampa Bay Lightning this season?
Well, I think the short answer is, and it's almost cliche because we've heard it so much, and that is, if the Lightning can play their game and if they play it from start to finish and every player plays his role, then the team 99% of the time is going to have success. And when I say playing their game, it's using their speed, it's putting pucks on net, it's, not looking for perfection, just hockey 101 really, but using their speed to their advantage, getting physical when necessary, and, making sure that the other team has to skate 200 feet. And what we mean by that is we know that the team can score, but to limit the opposition from scoring or even just having a lot of zone time, doing the smart, simple plays just to make sure that the other team has to work for their chances and you're not just letting them, go about and play their game. So, we've seen the Lightning's success come from moving their feet, causing some havoc in front of the net, and basically playing the way that they've done throughout the regular season to get this far.
Now, Matt, in hockey, you win with defense, and the Lightning have a phenomenal defenseman in Victor Hedman. How huge has he been to the Lightning's success thus far? Because I don't think a lot of Blackhawk fans really know who he is. Can you tell us a little bit about Victor Hedman?
Yeah, it's funny. The rest of the NHL is kind of catching on, too, because had Victor Hedman not injured his finger earlier on this season in this 6 weeks of play, I think he very well would have been one of the three Norris Trophy candidates. Certainly much more in the discussion than he was at the end of the season. Victor was the second overall pick in the 2009 draft. Took him about 3 or 4 years to adjust to the NHL game, learn how to play defense on this size rink against these particular players. And once he got that defensive game down, then the leash was taken off for him offensively. When Rick Bowness came in as associate coach last season, Bowness was in charge of the defensive pairing throughout games. He was so impressed with how well Victor skates that, he basically said, all right, we're going to turn you loose here because we know that even in the event where you get caught up in an odd man rush or a defense situation where you have to hurry back to the zone, they felt pretty confident that he could do that. And even John Cooper's commented that, Victor may ice the puck, but he'd also be the first player down there beating everybody else out to the puck. So we've really seen both sides of the ice. We've really seen the maturation of Victor Hedman over the past couple of years, and it's been quite the sight to behold because this guy is defensively sharp, but offensively opens up so much for the Lightning as well.
We have Matt Sammon here with us of the Tampa Bay Lightning pre- and post-game show here on Out of Bounds on SportsTownChicago.com. Now, Ben Bishop, he's been playing every minute of the playoffs so far with 2 of his 3 shutouts occurring in the big games, those Game 7s. Do you feel that he's going to be able to keep this performance up so far when we get into the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, I can't guarantee a shutout every time, but I think Ben Bishop has answered the call every time. And it's funny, when you look at each of the individual playoff series, the other goaltender started getting the attention, and there was some doubt coming in from outside about can Ben Bishop withstand the storm. And every round he did it. Against Detroit, all we heard about was, wow, Peter Mrazek's having a great playoff series. Ben Bishop isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, against Montreal, it's Carey Price, Vezina winner. He's probably going to win the Hart Trophy. Can Ben Bishop stand up against him? Well, yes, he did. And then, you know, we just got done with Henrik Lundqvist. You know, Lundqvist would have a really good game. In fact, games 4 and 6, Lundqvist was pretty sharp. But Bish bounced back with shutout wins in games 5 and 7 on the road. So I think he will be able to keep it going. Like I said, we can't guarantee shutouts moving forward, but he's been up for the challenge every round, and I don't see why this round would be any different, especially having the challenge of trying to shut down some very talented Blackhawks players. I know he's ready for that.
Man, I've watched a lot of Tampa Bay Lightning hockey throughout the year. 40 wins for Ben Bishop, a 2.32 goals against average. I've watched the Lightning in the playoffs, especially the Eastern Conference Final against the New York Rangers, and I feel he's not being Ben Bishop, that is not giving the praise that he deserves, because there's been so many in New York media who have said that only Lundqvist showed up for the game. But Bishop deserves his credit, because he performed a shutout in the game, in Game 7.
Yeah, and, you know, it's not just Ben Bishop, but it's also the team as a whole. And, you know, obviously as an employee of the team, I'm going to feel this way. I'm biased, I'll admit it. But it's amazing how little credit has been given to the Lightning. You don't just accidentally get to the Stanley Cup Finals. You've done something right, and you've done it well enough consistently to get this far. And it's going to be a tough challenge with the Blackhawks in the finals. This is one of the best teams in the NHL, the Blackhawks. They've won 2 Stanley Cups in the last 6 years. It's their 3rd Stanley Cup appearance. So it's not going to be easy for the Lightning to put up a fight here, but you have to give this team some credit. They're doing a lot of the little things right. And I think as long as people doubt them and wonder if they're going to be able to handle this, I think the Lightning enjoy it. They like being called the underdog. They like people overlooking them. And so far, they've been able to answer that by saying, all right, you don't want to talk about us yet, but we're still going to go out there, win a hockey game, and move on to the round.
I'd say exactly right, Matt. The Lightning had over 100 points again this year. They've knocked off, of course, 3 of the big names throughout the course of the hockey purists, taking out 3 of the original 6, and they're looking to get rid of, looking to knock off the Blackhawks, which would be 4 of the original 6. And to me, it's always going to come down. It's just how it always works. There's that player that we really don't know about. Who do you think is going to be that guy for the Lightning to shine and really, you know, turn heads here during the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, I think that I'm going to mention 2 players, actually, that I'm sure Blackhawk fans are aware of, but maybe throughout the playoffs you haven't been able to catch every game. You haven't been able to see the contribution. One is Alex Killorn, who scored the game-winning goal in Game 7 against the Rangers. Alex Killorn has had an outstanding playoff season, if you will. The last 2 months, he's just been on top of his game. He's a big winger out of Harvard. He's of the younger Lightning players, he's the most experienced. I'm not counting Stamkos and Hedman because they were top draft picks. But, you know, Alex Killorn's been part of the organization since 2007. He uses his speed, uses his size to his advantage, and especially ever since Terry Filppula centered the line with Killorn and Stamkos, he's just gotten even more dangerous. So Alex Killorn's going to have to come up big. But I also think one of the keys for the Lightning in this series is getting depth scoring. And it's not just from the 3rd and 4th line. They need scoring from the defense. I think one player that you need to watch out for is Anton Stralman, who is proving to be the biggest steal in the free agency period last summer. Stralman is very calm, cool, collected, and if he's not scoring the goals, he is setting them up with some outstanding outlet pass. So I would say keep an eye on Alex Killorn, top-line winger with Steven Stamkos about Terry Filppula, and Anton Stralman, who, if he's not the top defense, if he's not on the top defensive pairing with Victor Hedman, he will be contributing wherever he is on the ice.
Now, Matt, you mentioned Anton Stralman. Of course, he was picked up free agency, as you did mention. But the Tampa Bay Lightning as a whole, they've been a team that's been assembled by Steve Yzerman through the draft. Is there any way that this team could actually keep on winning through this way the entire time? When I look at the roster right now, it's a young team. It's a young, good, talented team that I think can be here in the Stanley Cup Finals, or at least competing for a championship for at least the next good 5-6 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. And really, you just have to look around the league. Look at the teams that have had success. Look at Chicago.
Exactly.
The Blackhawks they gutted things out about 10 years ago. They had some tough time. You land a couple of generational players at the top of the draft in Kane and Tate, but then you supplement it with smart trades, some deeper round draft selections. You get your Duncan Keith, you get your Brent Seabrook, you get your Brandon Saad, you get your Brian Bickles. I mean, you get the guys that play a certain role and also fit in team structure. And not only have the Blackhawks done that, but the Kings have done that. I think the Bruins did it well for a while. The Penguins did as well. They need to reset a couple of things there. But I think that's the way that you need to build things. And look at the guy who put this together for the Lightning. Steve Yzerman saw that exact same construction style in Detroit under Ken Holland about 10 years ago. I do believe that this is just the beginning of the window for the Lightning. I do think they realize that there is a sense of urgency here, though, because the window, thanks to the salary cap, is a little smaller than it was in previous years. But this is a team that is going to be built to contend every year, not just get to the playoffs once, miss it twice, get back to the playoffs like a lot of teams do. You need to build a team that can be in the playoffs for 4, 5, 6 years in a row, or like Detroit, 24. Keep the fan base energized and keep giving yourself a chance in the salary cap era.
Well, not only did you mention Steve Yzerman learning from Ken Holland in Detroit, also the main man that was there that everyone will always remember. He's now working with the Blackhawks, Scotty Bowman. It just seems so eerie the way Detroit was winning all those years, and now you're seeing it with the Blackhawks. And I think you can say the same thing with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're built very much the same way, and you never know, especially when you see certain players that pick up, like Ben Bishop right now, and I look at the roster, and you have Andrei Vasilevsky. I hope I said that correctly. My Russian's not all that good. He was, obviously a top two or three pick just a few years ago, and he's waiting in the wings. He's a 20-year-old goalie who got some time this year. Makes you wonder, could you strike when the cauldron's hot and kind of unload Ben Bishop, especially how well he's done so far, and just kind of keep retooling the team through different trades? Because, Steve Yzerman, he really hasn't been afraid to make those big-time moves, when you look at what he did last year, trading away Martin St. Louis.
Yeah, well, the Marty St. Louis trade, of course, was a forced trade. Marty wanted out, and he really handcuffed Yzerman by saying, I'll only go to the Rangers. Now, in the long run, it's looking really good for the Lightning because Callahan has been a key contributor to this team, but also Callahan helped recruit Anton Strawman and Brian Boyle as being, restricted or unsigned free agents last summer. So that helped out. I think in the context of Andrei Vasilevsky, and this is also a coup for Steve Yzerman, he traded Steve Downey about 3 years ago to Colorado, got Kyle Quincy, and he flipped Quincy to Detroit for Detroit's first-round pick, which I think was the 19th overall pick, and he got Vasilevsky with that. There's no doubt that Vasilevsky is going to be the goaltender of the future for this team. I think, though, the team feels he was kind of pushed up here a little too quickly, simply because Evgeny Nabokov, the wheels fell off of Gabby very early on in the season. So I think, stranger things have happened, but I think in a perfect world, Steve Yzerman would prefer that Andrei Vasilevsky go back to Syracuse and get the number 1 minutes there next season. Now, I will agree with you, Robert, that the Lightning will have a couple of tough decisions to make. If you look down the road, never mind goaltending, but you need to sign Steven Stamkos' contract stuff after next season. You need to start doing the math on an extension for Victor Hedman. His deal is up in 2 seasons. So eventually somebody with a heavy price tag is going to have to get moved. And that's the beauty of continuing to stockpile these young stars with great draft selection. Nikita Kucherov was a second-round draft selection. Cedric Paquette was a fourth-round draft selection. Andre Palat, who I believe is a Selkie Award-winning forward, and he should be winning that hardware eventually, he was a seventh-round selection back in 2011. So as long as you can continue to find those diamonds in the rough, it makes the decision process of, okay, we need to move this big contract, or we need to let this guy walk to work together. It makes it a little easier when you keep striking goals like that over and over again.
All right, Matt. I actually had Dave Milshkin on just a little bit earlier. I asked him what he thought. I feel that it's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning and their youth winning out in 7 games over the Blackhawks experience, just because the Blackhawks, they played so many overtime games. They let it all hang out in the Western Conference Finals. That's why I believe the Lightning are going to take it. Dave, he obviously said, you know him, he's not one that likes to make prognostications on either players or series or teams. So how do you see this series playing out?
Well, let me just say, I hope for our sake you're right. If you are, I owe you a drink. But I have to play it safe here. Obviously, again, I'm biased towards the Lightning. I like their chances. But let me put it to you this way, because again, you're playing a Chicago Blackhawks team that is incredibly talented, and you can't just say, "Oh, this will be an easy one for the Lightning." Likewise, though, if Blackhawks fans realize this too, you can't say, well, this would be an easy one for the Blackhawks. I can tell you this series is very unlikely to be done in fewer than 6 games. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7. And I think there needs to be a little bit of respect on both sides. We realize how dangerous the Blackhawks are. And if the Blackhawks haven't figured it out, and I'm sure they have because they're well coached, they're well managed, they've got great leadership on that team, this is not going to be easy for them if they win this series. And I will say that no matter who wins, I think the NHL and hockey fans win because these are not two teams that are just putting it all on their goaltender, hoping to win a game 1-0 or 2-1 with 22 shots on goal. This should be fast-paced. This should be wide open. I'm not going to guarantee high scoring, but I will say that probably will be on the edge of your seat no matter who you're rooting for. In the end, if you're a hockey fan, that's all you want to get to the stadium.
You're exactly right, Matt. I'm actually more excited to be seeing Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup Final rather than the New York Rangers. I'm not like East Coast anti-New York, but I just felt that it's just more exciting to see Tampa play out there. All the young talent that they have, it's just really exciting to see. You know, Matt Sammon, thank you again for coming on to Out of Bounds here with us. If you want to actually tweet Matt, he is at Sammon Says on Twitter. Give him a tweet. I follow Matt. I just think the world of you, Matt, and I listen to your broadcast on XM Radio all the time. Wish you guys luck, and hopefully we can have you back on during the week during these potential 7 games of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, give me a call anytime. Be happy to join you. Thanks again for having me on today.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. That is Matt Sammon from the Tampa Bay Lightning here on Out of Bounds, and we're going to head to commercial break and stay with us here on SportsTownChicago.com.